Story's told of two boys spend the night at Grandma and Grandpa's house, and as they got ready for bed, they went upstairs, and Grandma and Grandpa were downstairs watching TV, and the little boys started praying. And the younger little boys, they got on their knees beside their bed. The younger little boy started praying really loud, and he was like, "And dear God, please have Santa bring me a new puppy, and have him bring me a new basketball and a new bicycle, and have him bring me a new PlayStation," just really loud. And his brother finally looked at him. He said, "Hey, God's not deaf." He goes, "Yeah, but Grandma and Grandpa are." And you know, there's a lot of that gift giving, gift exchanging that goes on during Christmas. A lot of receiving and a lot of sharing of those gifts. And as we come to this time of year, I'm reminded of a gift that God gave us. And in our family, we have a tradition each year when we get together on Christmas morning, we read Luke chapter 2, the first 20 verses. And those verses talk about that gift. They talk about how God sent his son Jesus to be born as a baby in a manger. And in Luke chapter 2, those 20 verses also talks about how his parents were Mary and Joseph. It talks about how the shepherds came from the fields to witness this miracle, how the angels appeared to the shepherds and how the angels announced the birth in a multitude. And it talks about an incredible scene and an incredible gift. And we've been looking at it the last couple weeks, asking questions. It was just 2 weeks ago we asked a question. I think it's a very good question to ask the question, why? Because if God gives us a gift, an incredible gift in his son Jesus, why did he send Jesus? Because the gift, Scripture would suggest, not only has the ability to change your life and my life today, but it opens up the opportunity for lives to be changed beyond today and beyond tomorrow and into eternity. So we ask the question, why? Why was Jesus born? If the Bible's true, and I believe with every fiber of my being it is, then why did he come to this earth? Why did God step out of eternity and into time and into space and put on flesh? And so we looked at that question. John chapter 3, verse 16 was a verse we looked at a couple weeks back answering this question. And that verse reads like this. It says, "For God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son, that everyone who believes in him will not perish but have eternal life." Why did God send his Son? That verse tells me that God sent his Son because he loved. He loved what? He loved the world. The world, not in, as if you look in the wording, it's not the orb, the planet that we live on, but he loved the world in that he loved the people, the mankind that inhabited the earth. God loved us so much that his Son stepped into time and space to mend a broken relationship between us and God. You see, God sent a present. He sent Jesus in flesh to be born in a manger, who grew up and at 33 years of age paid the ultimate price for my sin and your sin. Jesus died on a cross because Scripture would teach that God is a holy and just God. He cannot wink at sin. He can't turn a blind eye to it. There must be an account made for the wrongs, an account that, according to Scripture, is a death penalty for you and for me. And God sent a gift that first Christmas day. He sent the answer to our spiritual sickness and the eternal dilemma that we face in Jesus Christ. Sin is not a joke to God. It's not something he can excuse. And Jesus paid the ultimate price. But he also gives us options. In giving the ultimate gift, God gives the option of receiving or rejecting. Maybe you've experienced in life, you've given a gift to somebody, and you watch them in excitement, they unwrap it, and as soon as they're done, they're like, oh. I'll never forget when I was 16 years old, my parents gave me a gift for my birthday one year. And among the gifts was one that I started to unwrap, and as only a child can do, I said, well, I hope this is not another Bible. Because I'd already in years past received 1 or 2 Bibles from them. And I'm thinking out loud, as nobody should, I'm thinking out loud, I said, I hope this is not another Bible. And I unwrapped it, and I was like, it's the Bible I've always wanted. And that Bible was different because they had noted some things in it, and they had kind of personalized it. But maybe you've been on the other side of that. You give a gift to somebody, and they disrespect it. They act as if it has no value. They take that gift, they unwrap it, and they're like, oh, thanks. They don't see the value in it, and they set it to the side, and they don't interact with it. I think throughout the scope of time, people have been doing that with God's gift over and over and over and over. So here's a gift. This gift can make an incredible difference in your life, and people are like, yeah, no thanks. I got other things to do. I'm kind of busy. Might get back to it later. And we set it to the side when God's paid the ultimate price to give you and to give me the option of changing the trajectory in our life from this day forward. If you want to be in a close relationship with God, He offers that gift to make it possible. But the choice is yours. So why did Jesus come? Jesus came because God loved us. The second question we looked at was how. But how did He come? And I love it because it fits right in with the why He came. He came because He loved us, and He expressed it in the how. How did He come? He came, Philippians chapter 2 tells us He came in humility. He came in humility. In Philippians chapter 2, I want to read verse 7 and 8. And it says this. He, talking about Jesus, gave up His divine privileges, and He took on the humble servant of a slave, or the humble position of a slave, or the humble position of a servant. He was born as a human being. Now, remember, we talked a couple weeks ago that word humble means to lower, to stoop down, to put yourself on a level that may be perceived as beneath you, and for Jesus it definitely was beneath Him. He gave up His divine privileges, took on human form, and humbled Himself in obedience to God and died a criminal's death on the cross. Now, how did He come? He came in humility. How so? We talked about how just wrapping skin around Him and limiting His limitless divine potential was humiliating. To step into time and space and live among us was a very humbling act. And then as if that were not enough, He, even at the end of His life, 33 years of age, hung on a cross, dying a humiliating criminal's death. So it was an act of humility and a humble act all the way through from the beginning to the end. He refused to cling to His divine privileges. That verse 7 said. Think about it. Jesus could have walked on this earth, and Jesus could have been walking around going, hey, do you know who I am? Let me tell you who I am. Go get me a drink. Hey, go get me some food to eat. Hey, I'm not doing that. You do. I'm Jesus. I'm God in flesh. Do I need to remind you I walked on water? I healed blind people. I mean, he could have strutted around and beat his chest and said, look at who I am. But that was not. He came in humility. And what I find so interesting is in these verses here, and we talked about this briefly before, in verse 5, if you back up, it says very clearly in Philippians chapter 2, you must have the same attitude that Christ had. I'm continually dumbfounded in life by how many of us, myself included if I don't watch, want to walk around and beat our own chest, prop ourselves up, tell everybody how great we are. Do you know what I've accomplished? The scripture here says that we're to have the same attitude that Christ had, an attitude of humility. What does that look like? I love how Paul writes this letter, because if you back up just a couple more verses, he has the answer right there. In verse 3 of chapter 2 in Philippians, he says, don't be selfish. This is a good, I think this is a good painting or a good sketch of what humility would start out looking like. Don't be selfish. Don't try to impress others. Be humble, thinking of others as better than yourselves. Don't look out for your own interest, but take an interest in others too. I think a good start for humility would be for us as people to realize there are actually other people inhabiting this planet. And there are people inhabiting this planet that God has given me an opportunity to love and to serve. This world, as your parents probably told you, and my parents told me numerous times, this world does not what? Did you say that? My daughter knows that by heart. Revolve around you. Some of the rest of you said it too. This world does not revolve around you. It is an act of arrogance. It is an act of pride. It is an act of, we think we're more important than other people, if I think that this world revolves around me, if I think that everything needs to stop for me. Jesus came in humility. He came in the opposite of that. I wonder how many of us in the past month, being so preoccupied with me and mine. Think of the gifts. You think I've got to get gifts for my kids. I've got to get gifts for my spouse or my girlfriend or friend. I've got to get gifts for my siblings. I've got to get gifts for my parents. If you're married, I got to get gifts for my outlaws. I've got to get gifts for you. Got to get gifts for all of these people. And then you pile on top of that, those are people you want to get gifts for. People that matter in your life and people that are special, but you pile on top of that, then I got to get gifts for the people at work. Why? Because we do a gift exchange, and I hate it. Oh, and I got to get a gift for my kid because they're doing this thing at school where they're exchanging gifts, and my kid's not going to show up and be the only kid without a gift. Yeah, and then my neighbor gave me a gift, so oh gosh, now I've got to go find a gift to give to my neighbor to be, And we begin to pile on all of these extras, and I wonder why. Why do we have to get gifts that we see no value in and give them to people that we don't want to give them to? And I really think it goes back to Philippians chapter 2, verse 3. We're trying to impress others. We're trying to fit this mold. We're trying to fit this perception of what we feel like a caring person would look like. Even though, if we were honest, under the skin, we don't care. I wonder if we looked at the gifts differently, if it might not change our attitude. If we took the approach to sharing gifts, not just with family and extended family that we love, but sharing gifts in other environments, with people that we work with people that we live close to, with even kids we don't know through our kids at school, if we looked at it as an opportunity to serve in humility. That's what Jesus did. He came humbly to serve. If we looked at it as an opportunity to share love to others through gifts, through service. A number of you are doing that today. You've brought gifts, and you're leaving here at church. They're going to be given to other families who maybe are less privileged, less fortunate. And I have yet, after 16 years here, I have yet to hear a person who is involved in that gift-giving program through the church. I've yet to hear somebody go, oh my gosh, I'm doing this. We're doing like this Christmas present thing at church. I can't tell you how many times I've heard other people say, we're doing this Christmas present thing at work, or here, or there. I'm pleasantly intrigued by the whole change of attitude and approach when we serve humbly and we say these gifts are something we can do to make a difference in somebody's life, not something we have to do. And there's other opportunities for you and I to humbly serve instead of look at it as a mandate that we have to do. I have a confession. I do not like Christmas caroling. And our family, by my wife's decision, has made Christmas caroling a tradition. I'd rather be kicked in the head by an NFL punter. But no, we get to go Christmas carol. It's not that I don't like the songs, and it's not that I don't like singing. I just don't like singing when it's me, my wife, our 3 kids, in front of a bunch of people. But my wife said about 3 years ago, she goes, we're going to make this a tradition. And we went that year, and she thought it was a wonderful experience. I thought it was as close to death as I'd ever care to be. And then the next year, she goes, well, we've got this Christmas caroling tradition. We're going to do it again. And I'm like, oh, yay. And so we go, and she has a friend whose grandparent is in a nursing home in Greencastle. I'm like, are there not enough people around here we got to sing to? We got to go there now? And we get to Greencastle. We couldn't find the place, the nursing home. It was huge. I don't know how we missed it. But we finally get there, and we go in, and the nurse looks at us, and she says, who are you guys looking for? And I looked at my wife and said, who are we looking for? And she goes, And may I tell you, side note, my wife is a very intelligent lady who is always on point and has everything organized in lists. And I was dumbfounded because she said, I don't know their name. I'm like, are you kidding me? There's like 300 people here in wheelchairs. You can't just say it's the guy on the walker, honey. Look around. It's everybody. She goes, well, it's this lady's father's father. I'm like, oh, well, now we're getting close. And as we talked a little bit longer, the nurse was so helpful. And we finally decided it must be this guy. And we go in to sing to him. And I tell my wife on the way in the room, I said, here's the deal. If I sing a solo, we are never doing this again. And so we walk into the room, and my kids have mocked me for years since this happened. There was a little old man in a wheelchair there, and we walked in, and I said, hi, we've come to sing Christmas carols to you. Would you like for us to sing to you? And he was all just, his body was racked with pain, and he was curled up in the chair, and he went, because I have the gift of discernment, I knew he could not understand what I was saying, and so I started singing. Well, the way I remember it was my angelic voice just booming out this Christmas carol. The way my family says it is I walked in and go, hi, we'd like to sing a Christmas carol. I said, I did not do that. Yes, you did. And then to make it worse, you started going, Silent Night, Holy Night. I'm just trying to lift this guy's spirit, and I look over him, and there is my wife going. My daughter's crying right beside her. My two sons got a look on their face like, what happened to you? And I'm thinking, we are not ruining this guy's Christmas. All is calm, all is bright. I do not enjoy that experience. We walked out of there, and I said, that's it. That is no longer a tradition. We're not doing that again. But you know what? We'll get together with people in church. Another great opportunity for you to humbly serve. This afternoon, it's in your bulletin, in your announcement sheet. We're going to be singing Christmas carols at some of the nursing homes. And I love that. We'll sing with a bunch of people, and I stand by a couple people. I'm like, yeah, you sing just as bad as me. We'll sing together. And there are some people there that sing really well, and it really doesn't matter because the people there just love being loved. They just want to know they matter. They just want people to humbly care about them instead of worrying about whether, I sound like I sing in the opera or whether I'm singing on Saturday Night Live. They want to be able to know that someone took the time. And so really, guess what? The world doesn't revolve around me. It's not about me. And it's not about what I want. It's about us, like Jesus, taking the opportunity to humbly serve other people. And so we have the opportunity to do that. Or maybe you're tied up this afternoon from 5 to about 7 o'clock. We'll go to one nursing home, and then we'll go to another, and then we go to McDonald's. And then, my wife is crazy. And she said like last year or the year before, she goes, I know what we're going to do. We're going to just all start singing. What's that called, Taylor? Flash mob? We're going to flash mob McDonald's. I'm thinking, that's a horrible idea. I'd just rather flash McDonald's. I hate singing in front of people. There any elders in this service? I'm going to need to update my resume. And so we go and we sang at McDonald's. And people were looking at us like, what are you doing? And I'm like, they're trying to sing. And they brought us food. The manager brought out cookies. It was really neat. But it's not about me. And maybe you can't serve humbly and sing tonight. Or maybe that just goes so much against your DNA, you're not going to. There's an opportunity to serve tomorrow evening. Monday evening, you can humbly serve and love people at SOS. Talked with a young man who served there several times, and I talked with him just in this past week. I said, well, what do you do there? He said, well, I wipe tables. I said, how can you wipe tables for a couple hours? He goes, well, I wipe tables, and then I'll go upstairs. And he said, I'll sit and I'll worship because they have some like open worship going on there, and I'll pray some, and then I'll go back downstairs, and there's tables I can wipe, and I'll wipe tables again, and I'll throw some dirty dishes, take them to where they need to go. I'm thinking, man, we can humbly serve, and if a 16 or 17-year-old can do that, why can't we? Maybe that's not you. Maybe December 28th, check your announcement sheet, it's in there. Maybe you have the opportunity to serve something so simple. All of us eat. Maybe you go to B-Dubs on the 28th of December and you take that little ticket with you and you say, hey, we want a portion of our proceeds in this meal to go to the missions team that's going to Haiti. I'm just saying, there's tons of examples. People don't read their announcement sheet, and there's tons of opportunities for you and I to humbly serve others in love. Because this is not about us. And that gift that God sent 2,000 years ago on that first Christmas is not just about us. You see, because the third question that we need to ask is the question, what? Why? He came because he loved us. How? Because he loved us, he came in humility. And then what did he come to do? He came to, in Jesus' words, seek and save the lost. But in other words, it would be make a difference in people's lives. Not just a difference for today, but a difference throughout eternity. How many of you have heard the name Martin Shkreli? And I hope I'm saying that right. Martin Shkreli. And maybe if that name doesn't ring a bell, he's the CEO of a company named Turing. Does that maybe ring a bell? If that doesn't ring a bell, you've probably seen him in the news over the last couple months because his pharmaceutical company Turing raised the price of Daraprim, a drug that's necessary for the maintaining the health of individuals that have suppressed immune systems, particularly cancer patients and AIDS patients. He raised the price of this Daraprim. He raised it from $13.50 a pill to $750 a pill. You know the guy I'm talking about in the news? Yeah. People whose lives are in the balance, it's not a marketing supply and demand. It's the fact of, you got to have this, and I got it. How bad do you want it? So from $13.50 up to $750. And then the media gets on him, and social media goes crazy. And then he backs off, and he's like, okay, well, we're going to cut the cost. And so they do. All the way down to, last I heard, a whopping $350 a pill. I just want to ask God, what is your malfunction? What I don't understand where you're coming from. And if you were to wrap your mind or take a snapshot in your mind of what you think of this guy, when you hear what he's done to people, how he's manipulated, how he's taken advantage of, how he's essentially cheated them, take that snapshot, and I want you to plug that into Luke chapter 19, because there's a story there I want us to read. And I want us to understand the gravity of this guy. His name's not Martin. The guy in Luke 19, his name's Zach. And Jesus has an encounter with this guy. He's a guy the rest of the world looked at, much like many people in our country look at this Martin. They look at this guy, Zach. He's a cheat. He's a liar. He's manipulative. He undermines people. He's all about himself. Only instead of dealing in pharmaceuticals, he deals with taxes. And in Luke chapter 19, Jesus arrives at the town Zach lives at, large city named Jericho, and he gets there, and as he's walking through the street, and all of these people are following him, he encounters this guy, Zach, and he says to him, Zacchaeus, is the guy's name in the Bible, Zacchaeus, you and I need to get together for lunch. Matter of fact, we need to do that today. And Zacchaeus says, well, all right, and he gets excited, and they head off to his house. And in Luke chapter 19, I want to read something to you, because I see so much of us today, if we're not careful, in that passage there. In verse 6, it says, he took Jesus to his house in great excitement and joy, but the people were displeased. He, talking about Jesus, he is gone to be the guest of a notorious sinner, they grumbled. Yeah, I read those verses, and guess what I see? I see for you and for me a warning. Jesus typically hangs out in the Bible with people that religious folk don't want to be around. Over and over and over and over. Samaritan woman at the well. The lady caught in adultery. This guy. People with leprosy. Over and over, the people that the religious folk pushed away, Jesus says, I'm all about this. And he goes on to say why. It says they grumbled, the religious people. He's gone to be a guest, a notorious sinner, and they grumbled. Meanwhile, Zacchaeus stood before the Lord, talking about Jesus, and he said, I will give half of my wealth to the poor, Lord, and if I've cheated people on their taxes, I will give them back 4 times as much. I think another interesting point there is, here this guy Martin gets called on the carpet by media and social media, and he's like, yeah, you guys are right. We're going to back it off to $350. Now, he may have, but I have not yet heard him say, you know what, I was wrong, and I'm sorry. Maybe he said that. I haven't heard it. But I look at this account here with Zacchaeus and Jesus, and Jesus in his house, and Zach says to him, he goes, you know what? I am so wrong, and I am so messed up, and I want to change in such a dramatic fashion. And I think, wow, what a difference. You see, the media can apply outward pressure, and people will give in to that, but there's not really a heart change. There's no heart change in saying, yeah, I'm going to charge $350 for a $13.50 pill. But this guy Zacchaeus stands before Jesus, and when there is an inward force, a life-changing force, a force that says, I want to have heart change in the presence of Jesus, it draws us to a dramatically different conclusion. When you and I take that gift and we unwrap it and we interact with it and we make it a part of our lives and God begins to change us from the inside out, it's not just an outward show of, well, I'm going to give up, $400 per pill. It becomes life-changing where I say, you know what? Anybody that I'm ever wronged, I am going to right this no matter what the cost. Because that gift he sent over 2,000 years ago changes lives. That gift that he sent over 2,000 years ago changes men into better husbands and better fathers. Because the problems in life go away? No. Because God changes our heart and we respond to our wives differently and our children differently. It changes women from the inside out so that they are better wives and better mothers. Because what? Everything goes well? No, because it changes their hearts. You see, it changes people into not just workers, but God-honoring employees who see their workplace as a mission field where they can take the gift God's given them and share it with others. Jesus ends up here in verse 9 and 10 saying this, salvation has come to this home today, for this man has shown himself to be a true son of Abraham. And the interesting thing about the wording there when he says true son of Abraham, he says a true son of Abraham because he's pointing out he's not talking about genealogy, and he's not talking about family tree, and he's not talking about if you go back, your great-great-great-great-great-grandfather would have been Abraham. What he's talking about is the sons of Abraham, and Paul reiterates this over and over and over in his letter to the churches in Rome and to Corinth. The true sons of Abraham are people who have a heart change because of that gift being applied to their life. He says salvation has come because this man's a true son of Abraham. For the Son of Man, Jesus says, referring to himself, the Son of Man, came to seek and save those who are lost. Or as he puts it in Matthew chapter 9, verse 13, I've come to call not those who think they're righteous, but those who know they're sinners. Why did Jesus come? Because he loved the world. How did he come? He came in humility. What did he come to do? He came to seek and to save the lost, to make life change a possibility in your life and my life and the lives of people around us. He was born in a manger as a gift from God. At 30 years of age, he began ministry, and at 33 years of age, he died on a cross in your place and my place. Just so you and I would have an option. Accept the gift or reject it. The choice is yours. Jesus wants to make a difference in your life today, but not just for today, and not just for the next year, and not just for the many years that you continue to draw breath, but he wants to make a difference in your life and my life today that transcends time and transcends space and stretches beyond this life. Today we want to give you the opportunity. If you've never begun that relationship with God, today is the day that you can do that. We would love to talk to you about where you're at in your spiritual journey. We want to pray with you and pray for you here in the prayer room. We want to talk about what the next step is. Or maybe you have accepted that gift from God, but you've been pretty doggone selfish with it, and you've never shared it with anybody. And today's the day that you say, I realize that the world is bigger than just me. And He gave me that gift for a reason, so that God, through me, can touch and change lives around me. Maybe today is the day that you make that decision. Today can also be the day if you're here and you have a relationship with Christ and you're living and growing in that relationship with Christ, we want to invite you to join us as partners in ministry. Say, I want to identify this as my home church, and I want to move ahead in ministry and be accountable and hold you accountable. Today is the day. We're going to stand and we're going to sing a couple songs here, and as we do, feel free to come forward and make that decision. Step into the prayer room and pray with one of our individuals over there about where you're at in that spiritual journey. Or maybe today is the day that you just sit where you are and you talk with God and you say, man, things have got to change because, God, I'm not holding up my end of this gift. So grow me and change me. As we sing the next couple songs, we're going to give you the opportunity and really the privilege that we all share together to celebrate the Lord's communion. You can come forward and take bread and the juice that represents Christ's body and His blood shed on the cross for us 33 years after that gift entered time and space. And at that time, if God so leads you, we also want to give you the opportunity that each of us have at any of these tables up here and one in the back to share in an offering. A small expression that, God, I realize everything I have is truly a gift from you, and here's a small token back representing everything I have is yours. We're going to stand and sing, and as you feel led, as you feel ready, over the course of the next 3 songs, please feel free to come forward, take communion. If you have tithes and offerings you want to leave, or even in the back there's another table, feel free to do that. I want to pray with us before we begin or continue in our worship. Dear Heavenly Father, your word is true. And God, sometimes you just strike straight to the heart. Lord, it's a misconception sometimes we have in church, Father, and that you sent your Son just for me, and that's where it stops. But God, I pray that you would give us the direction. I pray that you would give us the insight. I pray that you give us the understanding to see that you died for more than just me. And that, God, as you change me, you want to, through me, reach other people. Father, help us see ourselves as more than just an end to the gift that you shared that Christmas day so many years ago. Help us to honor you with all that we have, all that we are, and all that we do, for your glory. To live a humble life of service, seeking and saving those who don't yet know you.